All right, here we go. Welcome to everyone. All right, welcome to session number 194 of Kevin Reed's A Course in Miracles. All righty. Before we start, just a reminder that you can get just so much information from Dr. Wapnick. If you go to the website, it's facim.org. All right, it's all lowercase, facim.org. All right, that's the foundation for A Course in Miracles. Dr. Wapnick left a treasure trove of information and insight into the study of the Course. Okay. That I don't say that enough. That's why I had to do it today. All right. So, we are in chapter 25, the justice of God, and we are concentrating today on section 5, Roman numeral 5. Okay. Entitled The State of Sinlessness, on page 527 in the text. All right. Paragraph 1. The state of sinlessness is merely this: the whole desire to attack is gone, and so there is no reason to perceive the Son of God as other than he is. The need for guilt is gone, because it has no purpose and is meaningless without the goal of sin. Attack and sin are bound as one illusion, each the cause and aim and justifier of the other. Each is meaningless alone, but seems to draw a meaning from the other. Each depends upon the other for whatever sense it seems to have, and no one could believe in one unless the other were the truth, for each attests the other must be true. Right? Attack and sin. All right. He says they're bound to each other. They're bound as one illusion, and each the cause and aim and justifier of the other. I believe I'm separate from God. There are many others out there now. I need to attack. I need to project my guilt onto the others. Right? And I wouldn't feel like I was separate unless I believe I attacked the oneness. Right? See how these illusions go together. They're bound as one. And each one justifies the other. I have to attack because I'm separate. Right? I'm separate because I attacked. And now I feel guilty, and now I have to project that guilt, that's the attack, wherever I can. All right? And he says each is meaningless alone. All right? Sin is meaningless, he says. You're never separated from the mind of God. Right? So it's meaningless. He says, the other part, the attack, he says, that's meaningless too. You never did that. All right? And there's no need for it now, because in the state of sinlessness, in that state where there's no guilt, right? You perceive yourself as you are. All right? A great ray of light, any kind of metaphor you want to put on it. And no one could believe in one unless he thought the other one was the truth. So you see how that rests on each one too. All right? And he says, so the state of sinlessness is merely this: the whole desire to attack is gone. There's no need for it. And so there's no reason to perceive the Son of God as other than he is. So there's no reason to perceive yourself as other than you are, which is connected to the oneness. That's the state of sinlessness. You know that you're connected to God. Right? There's no need for all this nonsense. There's no need to project anything because there's no one to project it onto. You are part of the oneness. There is no other. Right? Even God, even the primal source is not an other. We are an intricate part of that. So paragraph 2. Still talking about the state of sinlessness. Okay? Attack makes Christ your enemy and God along with him. Must you not be afraid with enemies like these? And must you not be fearful of yourself? For you have hurt yourself and made yourself your enemy. And now you must believe you are not you, but something alien to yourself and something else, a something to be feared instead of loved. Who would attack whatever he perceives as wholly innocent? And who, because he wishes to attack, can fail to think he must be guilty to maintain the wish while wanting innocence? For who could see the Son of God as innocent and wish him dead? Christ stands before you each time you look upon a brother. He has not gone because your eyes are closed. But what is there to see by searching for your Savior, seeing him through sightless eyes? Right? So if we believe we're separated, if we believe we sinned, that means we're sightless. Right? So what is there to see with sightless eyes? You're looking for innocence? Right? With sightless eyes? But what is there to see searching for your Savior, seeing him with sightless eyes, through sightless eyes? Right? This is attack. Right? The belief that I separated from God makes Christ your enemy, the Christ, all right? It's the metaphor, the Christ, the emanation of God, the offspring of God, the Christ, your true self, your true self. Right? And by attacking the oneness, and in this experience, attacking ourselves or anyone else, right? It makes that Christ your enemy. Right? And God along with him. They're going to get you. Because you attack the oneness. Or you attack somebody here, now you're going to get punished. Right? God becomes your enemy. Your true self becomes your enemy. And so you're afraid to look for it. The course is very psychological. And he says, so here in this experience, he says, I mean, really, who wouldn't be afraid with enemies like this? All right? And must you not be fearful of yourself? That's what I mean. You're afraid to find out who you truly are because you think that Christ is going to disintegrate you, obliterate you. You're going to get punished for all your crazy thoughts. Right? And so you're afraid to look at yourself. Right? That's the purpose of the attack, is to keep that awareness of the Christ away from us. I think a good way to to look at that idea of the Christ is that state of innocence. It's the innocence. Okay? You see, people get, it's a big word. You are the Christ. Oh, now you're crazy. Now you're talking crazy. Right? But it's the same as saying that you are perfect innocence. You are the offspring of the primal source. You are the offspring of God. You are perfect innocence. Right? Is that a little less crazy for you? A little more palatable? But that's the way it is. Right? And attack makes Christ your enemy. Attack makes the innocence your enemy. And so you walk around, you're fearful. Right? And now you believe, because you attacked the idea, now you believe that you are not you. I am Kevin, I'm not the Christ. All right? Well, this form, this disguise is not the Christ. All right? The Christ is in the mind. Right? The awareness of your connection to God, the oneness, the state of sinlessness, that's in the mind. All right? An attack makes this Christ your enemy. And now you believe you are not you. All right? You're not you, you're something alien to yourself. You're this alien. You're alien to yourself and something else, something to be feared instead of loved. Okay? I mean, there are others who fear you. Not. It's. I notice it. I live in a building, and the building is a complex of buildings, right? So we all share the same thing in common, is that we live in this situation here. And it's amazing how many people. There's somewhere between 700 and 800 people in this complex. I believe it takes up a lot of space in the city here. And but you notice that you walk past someone, you're in the elevator with somebody, you're in the garage with somebody, you pass them by. Very, very rarely do people look up and say hello. And you notice it on the streets, of course, in New York City especially. And they're wonderful neighborhoods where people say hello to one another. And why do they do that? Because they're not afraid of one another. In New York City, you're bound to, you just keep to yourself. You go walking down the street saying hello to everybody. People start looking at you like, well, maybe he's high, Maybe he's medicated. But it's fear. You're someone to be feared, right? So are the others. The others are to be feared. Why? Because they're going to take what I have, or they're going to try to destroy me, they're going to find out my secrets, and whatever it is. All right? And it's all because of this belief in separation. All right? This belief that you are not in a state of sinlessness. You are not in a state of innocence, and neither are they. All right? That's why we have to constantly ask for that change of perception. All right? Help me see past the disguises. Help me to see through and past the ego to that innocence that is the other. That's why he says you're looking at the other person. That's where you're going to find your innocence. All right? But how could you find it when your eyes are closed? Right? Right? You can't find it when you believe you're separated from God. Right? I mean, you can make believe, you could do all kinds of things. But that awareness of the integration of the other, that you're one with the other, that comes with the willingness to see the innocence in the other, that state of sinlessness. Right? Who would attack whatever he perceives as wholly innocent? So if you knew they were innocent, you wouldn't attack them. Right? And who, because he wishes to attack, can fail to think he must be guilty to maintain the wish while he wants his innocence. All right? It's a mixed up world, a mixed up life, a mixed up experience. All right? Unless we realize that we have chosen to be separate, and we can always make another choice. Otherwise, you walk around, you want people to be nice to you, you want people to treat you as though you're innocent. And yet, we attack, we judge. Right? And we do that in this world in order to maintain that secret wish that I be an individual. Right? That's the secret wish. And if you get in touch with it, it's not going to obliterate you. It's going to liberate you. You say, oh yes, look, I'm choosing the ego. That means I chose to be separated from the mind of God. Now you can work your way back, because you could do that without judging yourself. And that's the key. Do that without judging yourself. Right? I don't say keep on repeating that nasty mistake you're making there. That the ego likes to sneak in the back door like that too. Oh, I know I'm, judging my friends and everything, and I'm calling them names, but I realize I'm choosing my ego. All right. Yeah, I'm not judging myself. Yeah, but you keep on doing the same dopey thing, right? And what that does is it reinforces your belief in separation, right? Until your life becomes miserable. I laughed one time when Eckhart Tolle was saying, he was having a conference, whatever you want to call it, for the weekend, and it was the first day, and he said, I'd like to welcome everybody and those who were, dragged here by others and things like that. And he goes, and he says, feel free to leave at any time. He goes, if you're really not getting anything out of this, he says, just feel free. There's no judgment involved. He goes, because you'll be back as soon as your life becomes more unbearable. And that's basically what Jesus tells us too, So we're only reinforcing that idea of separation when we're judging. All right? For who could see the Son of God as innocent and wish him dead? Because you can't do both at the same time. Right? And believe me, you get so angry at times. You just wish that person would be gone forever. Right? So he says, who could see the Son of God as innocent and wish him dead? You can't do the same thing at the same time, both things at the same time. He says in paragraph 2, sentence 9, Christ stands before you each time you look upon your brother. Right? And this is everyone that stands in front of you, everyone you even think of. All right? The person standing in front of you, under that disguise, is the Christ, the innocence, the pure innocence, the innocent offspring of God, which is a part of your mind, not separate from you. Right? That innocence is your innocence. There's no separation there. We only see separate bodies because we chose to believe we were separate. Right? Christ stands before you each time you look upon your brother. He's not gone because your eyes are closed. All right? So the innocence is not gone because your eyes are closed. You think you're separate and guilty. But the innocence is always there, which means your innocence is always there. So he says he has not gone because your eyes are closed. But what is there to see by searching for your Savior, seeing him through sightless eyes? Right? He says, well, what are you going to find? If you're looking around with sightless eyes, if you're looking through the ego thought system, if you're looking through that thought system of kill or be killed, it's me or you. We can't both be innocent. That's the ego thought system. So how are you going to find your Savior that way? The Savior is standing in front of you, right? Because he's the same innocence as you are. And if I'm willing to see it in him or her, if I'm willing to see it in him or her, I become aware of it in myself. And we practice that and reinforce it until one day there's the big aha moment. And you can start to see that innocence reflected all around you. Which he so beautifully said last week. Right? Every leaf that falls is given life in you. This is from last week. Each bird that ever sang will sing again in you. And every flower that ever bloomed has saved its perfume and its loveliness for you. All right? It's the experience of the innocence. All right? And it's not a fairy tale. It's not it's not a sales pitch. It's attainable. Alrighty then. But what is there to see looking through sightless eyes? Paragraph 3. It is not Christ you see by looking thus. It is the enemy, confused with Christ, that you look upon. And you hate because there is no sin in him for you to see, nor do you hear his plaintive call, unchanged in content, in whatever form the call is made, that you unite with him and join with him in innocence and peace. And yet, beneath the ego's senseless shrieks, such is the call that God has given him, that you might hear in him his call to you, and answer by returning unto God what is his own. So, by returning to God, the innocence, the glory, the infinite bliss, returning all that. So he says, by looking through the eyes of the ego, he says, it's not the Christ that you see. Right? It is the enemy. So you see an enemy. Right? Someone who's looking to get something from you. That's why people don't say hello to one another. Right? You see the enemy. It is the enemy, confused with Christ, that you look upon. And you hate because there is no sin in him for you to see. Right? Do you hear his plaintive call? unchanged in content in whatever form the call is made. Right? So each one that we come in contact with, and the ones in our thoughts, right? They are calling out. They are calling out, please see my innocence. Please tell me I'm not separated from God. Please tell me I'm not here in this hellish experience all by myself. Okay? And you can see it on people's faces as you walk by. Right? I mean, I'm lucky to live in a city where there's a lot of faces. And you could walk past a lot of people and just, you see that they're not at ease, all right? And they're calling out, please give me my innocence. Please tell me I'm innocent. Please tell me I'm not separated from my Maker. Right? Please tell me I'm not here all by myself. Right? Okay. This one stumped me for a second here. So he says, you're confused. You look on the other person that they're the enemy, not the Christ. Right? And you hate because there is no sin in him for you to see. Right? And I hate that. Quickly I have to put some sin in there. I have to judge them somehow. Because through the eyes of the ego, if they're innocent, then I'm guilty. Right? It's one or the other, so I hate them. Right? I had a friend of mine who still is, I should say, a very, very pretty woman. And she would get, jobs, and one day she said to me, Kevin, where I work, and I heard it in group settings and convivial settings, so-called friends would come up to her and go, oh, you look so good, I hate you. And she goes, I get that all the time. And some people actually would be jealous of her, right? Because they saw no physical flaws. Right? And that's what we're doing. We don't. If she's beautiful, I'm not. Right? If that other is sinless, then I'm not. So you have to project that onto them. I can find something wrong with them, believe me. All right? And we don't hear that call that each one has. Each one is giving us that call. Please, tell me I'm not here by myself. All right? They're all like little kids lost in a gigantic mall, lost in a department store, in a grocery store. Mommy and Daddy went around the aisle, left them there, where they feel like you're never coming back. And there was one book in I guess it was in the 90s. The authors, describe people as, some people feel as though their parents walked them into the woods, set them on a stump to sit and look around, and then told them, oh, I'll be right back, and then never came back. And now they're lost. And this is what everyone is calling to us. No matter how we perceive them, right? Some people, it seems to be more difficult than others to perceive that that's what they're doing. They're actually calling out, please tell me I'm sinless. Right? Please tell me I'm not here on my own. Right? So he says, if we're looking through the eyes of the ego, paragraph 3, sentence 4, he goes, nor do you hear his plaintive call. And that call, he says, is unchanged. It's unchanged in content, in whatever form the call is made. So whatever kind of nutty thing, whatever kind of vicious thing, all right, whatever kind of craziness is going on, he says that call is the same no matter what it looks like. Please tell me I'm innocent. All right? In whatever form the call is made, all right, it's unchanged. He's asking, help me, unite with me, and join with me in innocence and peace. And yet, beneath the ego's senseless shrieks, such is the call that God has given him, that you might hear in him his call to you, and answer by returning unto God what is his own. All right? So beneath all the nonsense, all the viciousness, the hatefulness that we perceive coming from the other, right? He says, such is the call that God has given him. It's that, please tell me I'm innocent. Right? And we need help doing that. We need to be willing to see past the senseless shrieking of the ego. Right? We can't make it up and say, oh, well, he's just scared. We need to know that on a visceral level, on a big level, very deeply. We have to ask Jesus, help me, I'm willing to see. All right? I'm willing to return to God what is his own, the innocence. All right? Okay, let's practice. But you get to it, you get used to it. It becomes easier to do when we become mindful every day. Right? Help me to see correctly. Help me to see the truth. Right? Help me to see the innocence. Okay? Right? And yet beneath the ego's senseless shrieks, such is the call that God has given him, that you might hear in him his call to you. So God is calling to you. And to answer by returning to God what is his own, which is the complete innocence. Right? The state of sinlessness. Paragraph 4. The Son of God asks only this of you, that you return to him what is his due, that you may share in it with him. Alone does neither have it. So must it remain useless to both. Together it will give each an equal strength to save the other, and save himself along with him. Forgiven by you, your Savior offers you salvation. Condemned by you, he offers death to you. In everyone you see but a reflection of what you choose to have him be to you. If you decide against his proper function, the only one he has in truth, you are depriving him of all the joy he would have found if he fulfilled the role God gave to him. But think not heaven is lost to him alone. Nor can it be regained unless the way is shown to him through you, that you may find it walking by his side. These words are powerful and beautiful, and they're not just, it's not just an epic poem here. Right? Let these things just wash over you. Let these ideas wash over you. Right? So he says without, well, let's read it. Alone does neither have it. So unless I'm willing to see the innocence in you, I don't have it. Right? Alone doesn't either have it. So it remains useless to both of you. Your innocence is still there, but it's useless to you because you're unaware of it. Right? But together, when I'm willing to see it in the other, it will give to each equal strength to save the other, to release each other from the ego thought system. That's the saving. That's what the saving is. We release each other from the bonds of the thought of separation and the result of that. Right. Together we'll give to each an equal strength to save the other and save himself along with him. Forgiven by you, your Savior offers you salvation. Right? And that the forgiveness comes through the willingness to see the innocence. Okay? All right. And when I see the innocence, the salvation comes to me. The release from the thought of separation comes to me. All right? So, forgiven by you, your Savior offers salvation. Condemned by you, he offers death to you. All right? So, if I see him through the eyes of the ego, see her through the eyes of the ego, they're guilty, they're useless, they're whatever. I judge them. It says they offer death to me, which means life in the ego thought system. The belief that I am outside of heaven. All right. In everyone you see but a reflection of what you choose to have him be to you. All right. Do I choose to have them be an other? To keep them at arm's length? To judge them? Do I choose that? Or do I choose to see them correctly? Help me to see them correctly. Help me to choose. I'm willing to see the innocence. Right? So in everyone you see but a reflection. So the innocence is reflected to me. A reflection of what you choose to have him be to you. If you decide against his proper function, right, which is forgiveness, which is being willing to see the innocence, right? So if you decide against his proper function, right, the only one he has in truth, right, and along with that proper function, in the earth plane, in this experience and form, it's forgiveness. In heaven, in the abstract oneness, it's just the expanding oneness, right? Just putting out oneness, right? That's the proper function. That's what we do. So if you decide against this, the only one he has in truth, you're depriving him of all the joy he would have found if he fulfilled the role God gave to him, right? Which is extending the oneness, and here, forgiveness. Right? But think not heaven is lost to him alone. He keeps repeating this over and over again. Don't think that by judging him as guilty that heaven is lost to him alone. Right? You lose. It's not that you're cast out, but it's that you keep thinking that you are. You're reinforcing that idea of separation. So heaven is lost to you by reinforcing the idea of separation in this person. Right? But think not heaven is lost to him alone, nor can it be regained unless the way is shown to him through you. because the minds are joined, right? And when I become willing and desirous to see the innocence in the other, right? It gets the benefit of that, no matter, even if they keep on acting like a nut, right? It's in the mind, right? And so in the mind, I am showing the way, right? I show the way to him. It's coming through me, so to speak, so it seems. Right? Nor can it be regained unless the way is shown to him through you. Right? So we may find it walking by his side. Right? So we may find the oneness, the escape from this nutty world, the ego thought system, right? By walking side by side. Not insisting that we're separated, by being desirous of becoming aware of the oneness. Paragraph 5. It is no sacrifice that he be saved, for by his freedom will you gain your own. To let his function be fulfilled is but the means to let yours be. And so you walk toward heaven or toward hell, but not alone. How beautiful his sinlessness will be when you perceive it, and how great will be your joy when he is free to offer you the gift of sight God gave to him for you. Right? You see in those words the idea of no separation. Right? As I say, don't be like me analyzing the words. Just let the words flow over you and sink into you. All right? So he says it's no sacrifice. He says, just think of how great will be your joy when he is free to offer the gift of sight God gave to him for you. He has no need but this, that you allow him freedom to complete the task God gave him. Remembering but this, that what he does, you do, along with him. And as you see him, so do you define the function he will have for you, until you see him differently and let him be what God appointed that he be to you. Right. Remembering this, that what he does, you do along with him. And as you see him, so do you define the function he will have for you, until you see him differently and let him be what God appointed that he be to you. So God appointed that he be my Savior. And I let him be that by being willing to see the innocence. All right? And he says, and look, it's no sacrifice. You don't lose anything by doing that. You know, so many people say to me, yeah, but he always wins. Right? She always does that. She gets away with it. In other words, they win. They always win. And Jesus is telling you, it's no sacrifice. Believe me. It's no sacrifice that they be saved. Right? Because they're not saved alone. You're included. Because there is no separation. Right? Nobody loses. That's the justice of heaven, the justice of God, the name of this chapter. No one loses. Okay? Well, he always wins. I hear that so many times from people in this little class I have. Now I feel bad about mentioning that. But you hear it from a lot of people. You try to tell him, oh, well, try this, try that. Yeah, but he always wins. He always gets his way. That's when we have to change. That's what Jesus means by trying not to think not. Don't try to change the world. He says, choose your mind. Change your mind about the world. In other words, change your perception. He always wins, he always wins, he always gets his way. And he always will. Okay? Nothing's going to change in the world. Most likely. But what you have to do is change your perception. You're not going to lose by asking God, asking Jesus rather, to help me see this person correctly. To remember that activity that they're engaged in is they're crying out. They're crying out for their own innocence. Help me to see it. Right? Okay. It's no sacrifice that the other be saved. For by his freedom will you gain your own. How many times does he say that? Okay. Paragraph 6. Against the hatred that the Son of God may cherish toward himself, is God believed to be without the power to save what he created from the pain of hell. But in the love he shows himself, is God made free to let his will be done. In your brother, you see the picture of your own belief in what the will of God must be for you. In your forgiveness, will you understand his love for you? Through your attack, believe he hates you, thinking heaven must be hell. Look once again upon your brother, without the understanding that he is the way to heaven or hell, as you perceive him. But forget not this: the role you give to him is given you, and you will walk the way you pointed out to him, because it is your judgment on yourself. All right? You will walk the way you pointed out to him, right? Because it is your judgment on yourself. Right? He's telling us there is no other. The other is a projection, right, of what you believe about yourself. He says, if you cherish the hatred, right, against the hatred that the Son of God may cherish toward himself. Right? If I believe I'm separated and I destroyed heaven, I hate myself deep down inside. I hate myself. That's why I have to get rid of the feeling and project it onto you. But he says, but against that hatred, right, God is believed to be without the power to save what he created from the pain of hell. Right? Against that hatred, it's like we don't have any hope. God can't help us out. Okay? But in the love that I show myself, God is made free to let his will be done. Right? And the love that I show myself is the love I show you. Right? If I'm willing to see the innocence in you, right? That's the love. I become aware of it in myself. And God is made free to let his will be done. God's will is to extend the love. And he says over and over again in different ways. So in your brother, you see the picture of your own belief in what the will of God must be for you. Right? In your forgiveness, will you understand his love for you? So if I'm willing to forgive, I'm willing to see the innocence, I will begin to understand God's love for me. Right? But if I attack, I will believe God hates me, right? Thinking that heaven must be hell, right? And I become afraid of God because he's going to get me and destroy me for separating. So he says, look once again upon your brother. Right? Not without. Jesus always does this with the words. So not without simply means with, okay? Jesus, he's a kidder. So look once again upon your brother with the understanding that he is the way to heaven or to hell, as you perceive him. All right? But forget not this. All right? So don't forget. The role you give to him is given you. All right? If he's judged as guilty, he's a creep, something wrong with him. That's the role you give yourself. All right? I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. All right? I like that song we did. Tell me, what am I doing here? Forget not this. The role you give to him is given you. And you will walk the way you pointed out to him, because it is your judgment on yourself. All right? Projection makes perception. All right? If I project the guilt onto them, I'm going to continue to believe that I'm guilty, because you never get rid of it that way. The only way to get rid of it is to be willing to see correctly. I'm willing to see the truth about the other and myself. I mean, we could project a lot of obvious hatred onto ourselves. And that's a good time to ask Jesus, help me to see myself correctly. Right? Help me to see myself correctly. Right? If I think there's so many things wrong with me, most likely, there's a good chance I'm going to be, I'm not going to be a nice person. Let's put it that way. Be irritable, whatever. Always, about to be angry. So the role I give to myself, I could give to myself that role of being repulsive. Right? You're this, you're that, nobody likes you. You just repel everyone. That's a good time to ask Jesus, help me to see myself correctly. Help me to see myself correctly. I'm telling you, there was a time in my life when, I must have said this a few times, where I couldn't walk past plate glass windows, and what else is there in Manhattan? And even in the town in Queens where I lived for a long, long time. The stores have plate glass windows. I couldn't stand to see my reflection in the plate glass window, right? Because of the way I perceived myself. And it's those times when I suggest to you, if that's an experience, you have similar experience, is to ask Jesus, help me to see myself correctly. Right? Help me to see myself correctly. In one of the lessons, Jesus said, you think you are the home of evil, darkness, and sin, and if people saw you, they would recoil from you, as if from a snake. Right? So Jesus being very poetic, but that was my experience. Looking at myself, oh, so much shame, so much disgust. I mean, it can get to the point where it's crippling. But it's a good time. It's not true. All right? It's a good time to ask Jesus, hey, can you help me out here? Right? help me to see myself correctly. Right. So, I don't know how I got onto that tangent, but right. In your brother, you see the picture of your own belief in what the will of God must be for you. Right. And he keeps saying it in so many different ways. Right. And what we want to do is to become willing to see that state of sinlessness in the other, and become happy when we realize it's also in us. Okay? And that state of sinlessness is merely this: the whole desire to attack is gone. Right? There's no need to project any guilt. And that state of sinlessness is that there's no reason to perceive the Son of God as other than he is, which is the glorious sinlessness, right? That's the state of sinlessness, and it's achievable, and you will achieve it, all right? Okay. So, that's about the state of sinlessness. What you see in them, you see in you. Okay? I'm not going to get silly. I have a temptation to be silly right now. But I won't. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for the opportunity to read the course and let the words flow over us. Okay? And I'll see you next time in a state of sinlessness. All right then. Bye now.